what has been showing itself to me in my world recently? It's always showed up, but it's become very clear. I'm getting a lot of clarity on it. And we've talked about the flow state, being in the flow state. And I'm connecting all the fragments to see how they all flow together, and they're showing me, it's a communication that I get from like the data. It's just like when we were giving our patron her Patreon session today, her consultation today. And I was saying, look at the patterns. Notice the patterns in your life of what's led you up to where you're at right now. Mm-hmm. And so when I observe, when we come into that state of observation, which is the flow state, I am seeing that when I just go with what feels good to me, go with what I practice every day. So I'm going to give an example. I practice yoga every day. I have since you were 3 months old. I love yoga, and I didn't know when you kids were little what I was going to do to get back into the workforce, because I needed to get back into the workforce. And I had already had a professional performing career, and I wasn't going to go back into that. That was not a calling for me. I felt like that chapter had closed. And what was very obvious was what I was already practicing and doing and talking about all the time, every single day. And, Nana said to me, well, what's the number? She was so funny. We were sitting in Nana and Papa's living room. Kyan was a toddler. And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, what am I going to do for work? What am I going to do? And she said, what do you talk about all the time? And I kind of smirked. And she's like, you help people with this. You help people, like, what am I going to do with my life? And she's like, and you've always been very confident about what you're going to do with your life, which I look at that, and that's being in the flow state, because it's what I love to do. I always love to perform. And she said, you talk about nutrition. You talk about cleaning out your body. She said, you talk about movement. She said, you practice yoga. You talk about yoga all the time. You get all these yoga CDs out of the library. And, well, they were DVDs at the time, videotapes at the time. And she's like, this is all you focus on. I would think that it would be obvious to you that you would just naturally go into that, because that's what's a flow state in my life. And when people come to me for sessions and they want to know what their life purpose is or what they're supposed to do, what kind of job am I supposed to have? What do I do with my life? Well, what job do you have already? Well, what do you like about it? Well, what do you like to do in your life? What do you practice every day? Now, there are some people who are really disconnected, that really, they don't know. They're just watching television. They're watching media, and they're super cut off from themselves. But most people are already doing what they love on a daily basis. Their mind, because they're so outer influenced, they are not connecting that I'm practicing this every day. I could actually make a living at this. Sometimes they just have to get creative in how to make a living at it. But what I'm observing lately, to tie all of this together, is that I'm seeing that when you are in the flow state and you're just going with whatever presents itself to you, what are you called to? What are you attracted to? What is it that you love to do? What do you love to put your attention on every day? It'll just align for you. Another example. I just recently went to our town's gym, and it was like, I teach yoga. Right now I'm teaching yoga online once a week. I miss teaching more yoga. What's the logical step is to, now that the pandemic is over, to be able to go and teach yoga again in person. And I just went in and I was told, no, we don't need any more yoga teachers. And then there was a suggestion to go to another town that's a lot further away because they do need yoga teachers. And I just said, okay. And I felt in the moment when I was told, no, we don't need anybody here right now. We have 2 teachers. We're good. And it was like, okay, I felt my ego feeling like, oh man, I just want to teach in person again. I love talking with people. I'm very social. I want to be in a gym environment. I love being in a gym environment. All right. And so it was like in that moment, it was a test and I was observing, just stay in the flow state. Just be open to receive. I did. Literally the next day, I got an email back from the gym owner. I just talked with our yoga teachers and they said, oh my gosh, we need a sub. Message her back. And so, hey, would you be interested in coming to class and meeting all of us? And then we can see how we can get you in as a sub. And I'm just like, okay, sure. We arranged it. I went last night. It wasn't even about talking about if I was going to be a sub. It was, hey, we need these classes filled. Would you be interested in teaching your own class once a month? And then you could sub these classes. And then we're conversing more. And clearly we're all in a flow state together. And then pretty soon they're like booking me. I mean, it wasn't even like, hey, you're officially hired. It's just like, hey, let's get you on the schedule. And I'm observing the whole thing. And it's always been this way with teaching movement for me. I've never sought out teaching movement, not dance, not anything. I was literally asked to assist my dance teacher when I was 12 years old as her assistant because I picked up the tap steps so well. And then she saw that I was showing the girl next to me who was like, well, you got that tap step. How'd you do that? And then I broke it down for her. And my dance teacher said, Sonia, can you come over here for a minute? Sure. Show me how you did how you showed her the tap step. And I said, I just told her exactly what you told me. Da, 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 da. And she's like, would you be interested if we broke up in 2 groups and you took one group and I took the other group? And then she told me after a month, and she talked with me with Nana and said, I just want you to know, young lady, you're a natural teacher and I think you'd be a really great dance teacher. And then she tells Nana that. And I mean, my whole life I've been a dance teacher, a yogi. It's a flow state. It's not something that I went, I want to do that. This could be hard though. I'm going to have to pay a lot of money to go to school for and get a big degree. Da 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 da. I didn't. I literally just released. I just saw what universe was handing to me saying, here you go. This is what you do. I love it. I love movement. I love teaching. I love teaching movement. It's so easy to do. This is something that I'm just noticing is staying in the flow state because I've had a couple of clients I had a BQH session with a client a week and a half ago. Same thing. She's like, I don't really like my job. I don't know what I'm supposed to do for my work. And I literally said this to her. What feels like a flow state for you? Those 2 words, flow state comes in. What feels like a flow state for you? As humans, we think we're supposed to work hard. We're programmed. Work hard, make lots of money, but then you're putting that money back into the system again, and you're supposed to work hard. The flow state isn't about working at all. It's about flowing with it and seeing how things align. I am observing that this is coming in for us as a human collective strongly now more than it ever has before. Receiving what universe, what source, God, whatever your word is for the oneness is showing us you all need to align with this. Abundance is here for you. Everything that you need is here for you. Don't worry about the details. Don't worry about the how. How is it going to get done? How am I going to do that? Don't worry about the where. Don't worry about why or what or anything. You just focus on what it is that you love to do. Practice it and let go of any effort of what I should do with this. And it's all going to align for you. And it does every time. Anything that I ever put effort into, I've noticed is really blocking it from coming in. When I literally just put my focus on having fun, it just aligns. And I know this is something you've talked about with me.
Yeah, I've fallen in and out of this state a lot because it's very easy to get sucked up into the sort of work identity. And the reason for that is because what one person's work is another person's passion. So when you're looking at somebody who's achieved something and they've done a lot with their life, usually what other people will be like is, wow, they put in a lot of work, which is true for the person who's observing, because for them it would be a lot of work. If they're not passionate about it. If they did the same thing, then yes, it would be a tremendous amount of work and effort and all that, you know? So to say, oh my God, like you spent all that time like running and now you're like the fastest person in the Olympics, it's, yeah, that may be a lot of work to you, but I love training. I love, having to wake up at like 4 a.m. every morning and going through this big routine. And this is my life. I love doing it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't love doing it, And so we're all coming into a place where we're starting to align more with those values rather than aligning with the values of I have to do this specific thing. And really it's the other thing too is that when people are having a hard time aligning with their passions or figuring out what their passions are, you have to also separate yourself from, and you touched on this a little bit, you have to separate yourself from the identity of what might be good for me in the future, And that's a big one too, because then some people live in a state of constant dissatisfaction with their current self, and it blocks them from seeing what it is that they maybe should be just focusing on more, that they're already kind of in alignment with. And that can be tricky too, because visualization is a powerful manifestation technique. And so if you are in alignment with doing what it is that you love doing, like, yeah, it's great to dream about the future. Like, that's very helpful actually, because it helps you set a goal and then you work towards that goal by just doing it. And so when people hear that, they get confused because they're like, well, wait a minute, you just said work and goal, and those are like the two things that you said I should be avoiding. Yeah, if you're not doing what it is that you should be doing, then yes, that is not going to help you at all. Because if you work towards a goal that you think you should be doing, that's not the same as just falling into alignment with what it is that you love. And then the work is natural and the goal is natural, and it just becomes a beautiful dream. Because it is. And this is where I think people are starting to really like figure things out. It's like, I can idealize being a billionaire and I can say, I would love to have a lot of money. Maybe, because I'm looking at it from a small perception. I'm looking at it from like, I think it would be cool to have a lot of money to buy whatever I wanted and have the level of safety and security. But I'm not looking at it from the perspective of, well, it would be all of this work to manage this money and I would have to appoint this person, that person, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Somebody who is in alignment with a billionaire mindset is already thinking of all that stuff. Yeah. And so when they're getting into that perception and when they're aligning with that path, their vision for the future is actually very realistic. And it's based on what it is that I'm already doing right now. And so that's why it works for them. Whereas for me, being an artist, this is my natural alignment because I put the work from another person's perspective into art every single day. And I'll have people say, how did you get so good at mixing? Or how did you get so good at like doing this and that? Like, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, actually, I guess it's because I spent like every single hour of my day for the past, like since I was 17, really like watching videos, learning things, doing it. Because it's really interesting for you. The most fascinating thing to me in the entire world. It holds your attention. It's the one thing when you go online, that's the first page that you go to. You're looking, you're watching other YouTube mixers. It's so fun for you. It's so engrossing. Yeah. So it doesn't feel like work. It actually is like, no matter what, I actually can't seem to get away from it because everything that is in my life is connected to that world. And that's the difference, I think, is one of those things is an ego idea. Either I'm not doing enough or I could do that, or it's the reality of it, which is I just love doing this. Yeah, to touch on those that want to make a lot of money, a lot of actual financial currency, I have two comparisons on that one. First, one who's not in the flow state with that, and that was Nana's brother-in-law, my former Uncle Jack Miller, her sister's husband, real estate mogul in Minnesota.
collecting a lot of real estate. He was super stressed. He was so stressed. And I remember when I was little, and I remember we had a Thanksgiving with them, and Papa was talking to him about having I think it was something like, what does it feel like, Jack, to have $2 million? And he did not have a nice thing to say about that. He said, it's a lot of responsibility and a lot of stress. He said, because you don't think about, and here's an example of somebody that's the opposite of what you mentioned. He did not think about the level of responsibility of having that much money. He didn't think about, I have to manage that money. I have to figure out how to invest that money to make more. I have to do all the work that it takes to keep that money going. And then he also has employees, and he didn't think about that and the CPA he has to pay to help him do his taxes, all of that. He's an example, and he was my first example. So he was an example to me that I don't really want to have a lot of money because it's stressful. Look at Uncle Jack. And then when I moved to New York, and I was a live-out nanny for wealthy people, I remember the cordon bleu chef that I've shared stories with you about who helped me to learn how to cook better and actually kind of got me into the idea that I might want to go to cooking school. That was my one little stint for like a year when I nannied for him and his wife, that perhaps I'd like to go to cooking school because it was fun being in the kitchen with him. He came home for lunch and made his own food, and his daughter was down for a nap. She was a toddler in a crib, and he was like, come on in here and let me make something for you. And I said I was vegan at the time. He goes, oh, well, what is that? Because nobody knew what vegan was back then. And I told him, and so he made me this most amazing vegetable pizza and vegetable sub and all of that. And he was incredible, and he had a lot of money. They owned their penthouse apartment on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and he was so charmed, and he made his money from being a professional chef at multiple 5-star restaurants. And he was incredible, and he was so delighted with money. And I said to him, I told him about my Uncle Jack, and I said, my Uncle Jack said that it was stressful having the money, and he said, doesn't sound to me like he's a guy that really should have that much money then. And he said, I have fun with my money. I said, do you have investments? Of course I have investments. He said, because I'm providing for my child and for my wife and for my family. And he said, and he said he's got nieces and nephews that he also provides for. He said, I make all the money in my family. And he said, and I wanted to put my nieces and nephews, my brother's children, into the best schools. And he said, and I offered that to him as a gift. And he said, and I didn't offer that to him as a gift, as a finite gift. That's not something that, well, I'm making some money now. Let's put them in some public or some private schools, and I'm going to support them for as long as the money lasts. He said, no, you're taking responsibility, so you're investing. So I have to invest, and I have to make sure that I can put them through all of that school. He said, I also have college funds for them. And I was like, wow. He was so joyous about it. He was in the flow state. He did it by making the best food for anybody that wanted to eat his food at multiple restaurants. He studied at cooking school at Cordon Bleu cooking school in Paris. And he had made food all over the world in some of the best restaurants. And he showed me pictures of himself. He had awards all over his wall from Cordon Bleu and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so he was like, look, he was the first person to share with me when he said, look, you don't have to make a lot of money to be successful in what you love. You can perform and you can still be provided for without making a lot of money. That was the first time I had ever had that concept.
That's cool.
Yes. Of what abundance is. And he didn't say abundance. He didn't use the word abundance. And I didn't know the word abundance back then. I mean, I knew of the word abundance, but we weren't using it like we use it now. It's very much a 21st century new age, new earth term, abundance. And I knew about Nasara Gasara law, actually, but we didn't tack abundance with that. He said to me, as long as you're provided for and all of your physical needs are met, you don't even need currency. And I was like, Because I'm sitting at his kitchen island and he's making me, a vegan. He's making me a vegan vegetable like sandwich. It was on this French bread thing, and that was when I ate a lot of different types of food, and I was just like, really? Wow. And he's like, you can have so much fun in life. He says, money does not define love. Money does not define happiness. He's like, we need all of our physical needs provided for, but he's like, you love performing. Perform and see what God provides.
I always go back to this example because I think it's an interesting monetary example. And I don't remember his name, unfortunately, but there's a mobster who was, I believe he was a New York mobster at this point. He's one of the most like influential mobsters in the entire U.S. He's an 8, born January 17th, a Capricorn 8 in numerology. And he is famous for having almost no money to his name, but yet being one of the most powerful and influential people. And I'm assuming he loved being a mobster, and I'm assuming he loved exercising his influence over people, because basically he was completely provided for his entire life and was able to do whatever he wanted because people were his bank accounts. And it was his connection to people and the way that he influenced people. That was his entire like wealth legacy, was that I think when he died, he had like maybe $20,000 to his name, and that he like buried somewhere.
Okay, so John D. Rockefeller is quoted a lot by saying, own nothing, control everything, have all of the power. And I know that a lot of the mafia follows John D. Rockefeller and what he says. Perhaps this
maybe,
this guy
I
did.
mean, yeah.
Own nothing.
I think it would have been a similar era, but it is just, I thought of that as being so interesting when I learned that story, because I think so many people, they have this idea of like, well, I have an ideation of what money could give to me, but yet they don't take into account what it is that they're really looking for. And by addressing your needs first and foremost, like, what do you actually want to do? Like, what do you need to actually like be happy in this life? By addressing that stuff first, like if you find your way to money, that's how you do it. But I just think it's so cool that like that lesson was given to you, because that's something that not a lot of people, especially not a lot of people who grow up without money, ever learn. Is they're always kind of stuck in this. I think money is one of the biggest things that keeps people from the flow state, honestly.
It is. What I hear in meditation, and I've been hearing this for a long time. I don't know how many years or decades, but it keeps coming through from my higher self, the guides, my higher aspects. Abundance isn't about currency of coins and paper, notes. Now, you can make that a part of it if you enjoy the notes and the coins, gold bars, silver bars, bullion. If you enjoy that, then have that be a part of your experience. It isn't necessary, however, to have that in order to have all of the physical things and the services and the connections that you desire in order to have a really fulfilling human life in the third dimension. In 3D, it is a program that you need a middleman, a middle currency. You are A and you want C. You don't need B. In order to get to C, you can be A and turn that thing that you want into the B. And it's just you and that. Take out that program that you need a currency to get you into the flow state. You want to have land, you want permaculture, you just focus on the land and the permaculture. You don't focus on, well, if I really want a certain amount of acres in the state of property today in Oregon, in the fertile soil areas, it's going to cost me a minimum of $525K. Get the $525K out of there. And you just look at the land that you love and you just enjoy the feeling of, and plan in your mind. What does it feel like to be on that land? What does it feel like to grow your own food? And what are your dwellings going to be like? And how many people who also want this in their life can you bring in on that? And leave the rest up to universe to create that for you.
Exactly. And this is one of the things that people talk about if you go in depth into learning manifestation techniques too, is it's getting dammed up in the how is a big way to block yourself, because a lot of what brings in that is actually just kind of like allowing yourself to dream about it, and dreaming is being open to possibility. So if you find yourself like getting caught on a possibility and going, oh, but like that's a really great way to get there, but I need to do ABC to get there, it's like, well, just open yourself up to other possibilities, you know, like what's another way that you could get there? Like go through as many ways to get there as you possibly could.
The get there too, and I have a strong ego. I have a big ego, and it interferes. I allow it to interfere with being in the flow state. And so higher self guides will bring in laughter, humor, joy for me, knowing that my ego as an ego, I love to play. It's a Gemini ego. It loves to play. And so let's play. What's fun? Well, I have a playground for a living room. I have an indoor playground, and I love to laugh with ridiculous, silly YouTube videos. Right now, it's the Tri channel with the Irish people eating all kinds of incredulous things. Last night, I watched them eating American vintage chewing gum.
Wow.
And I was like, I got to show Colby this one. I had no idea that was going to be one of their most entertaining videos, because these are stand-up comedians that they got to be on there, and with their Irish dialect and like so dramatic. That stuff I find really funny. And the more that I laugh, the more that I relax, the more that I'm open to receive, the more this stuff just flows in, and suddenly, bing, there's an email. That's how I got the yoga at the town gym stuff, is I'm literally laughing, and then I sent the email off with my resume and my certificate, my yoga teaching certification, and I literally was thinking, I'm so overqualified to teach in this small town gym. And that was what the owner said to the other teacher while I was standing there. She goes, actually, if you read her resume, she's like, she's way overqualified to teach here. And I'm like, look at that. She's echoing what I thought. But I was literally jumping up and down on the Bellicon, watching the Tri channel, laughing. And literally the next day, bing, there's the email. Well, actually, I was talking with my yoga teachers, and we actually do need a sub. We have to cancel so many classes because their work interferes with it. And I didn't even think about that. They were like, no, we need a sub. Oh my God, she's got that resume. Let her come in here. Maybe she could teach this class, and maybe she could teach that. And maybe we could add more. Maybe we could build more community. I had put it out there. I'm like, well, I could help you build community. I kind of do that for gyms and yoga studios. I talk with everybody. And if you give me a gym membership, I'll just go there and work out and talk with everybody. And I'll talk your bodybuilders into coming into the yoga class. I did do that at Planet Granite for 3 years. And I got a lot of climbers to come into our yoga class. I even had climbers mostly in my yin classes because their bodies were so tight that they needed the long holds. I told her that last night. And she's just like, oh my God, when did you move here? She asked me, when did you move here? I said, I've been here for over a year. I've come here twice. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're here. And she had said no to me last week in the email, but I'm busy playing and having fun and trying to just stay relaxed and open in the flow state. When you are trying, when you are thinking it's hard work, you literally have to just do something that makes you relax and laugh. If it's a book, if it's gaming, if it's music, research, going outside. One of the biggest things, and this is what actually the Ninth Dimensional Pleiadian Collective talk about, focus on baby animals. That is their big thing. They're like, all humans love baby animals. This is what they constantly say. Humans love baby animals. It literally brings out that sweet, open-hearted, compassionate, joyous aspect of you. So get close or watch baby animals. You will get in the flow state so fast. You will let go of your need to, how is it going to happen? When is that coming? I want that now. What happened? Why doesn't this ever happen to me? Everybody else is making $1 million. How come I'm not? Watch baby animals. That's what the Pleiadians keep talking about. Watch baby animals every day, all the time, if that's the only way that you can relax and let go and laugh and cry. And then once you do, you're going to get in the flow state. And it's all magnetic attraction. You're going to be in that feminine receiving, and you're going to notice ping, 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 ping. Your phone rings, text goes off, email bleeps, whatever. Somebody's knocking at your door. That's what's going to happen. It's just going to come in. And you're going to be like, and you have to practice it. You have to practice being in the flow state. That's why I like to watch funny videos at the end of the day.
Yeah, I do the same thing myself with comics, comedians. That's a big one for me. I also agree with you. I think that laughing and relaxing in that sort of way. This is also why I've really had to get off my own case about like, because you can sometimes, even if you know what it is that you're really passionate about, you can like push yourself away from it by being like, I gotta go at it again and again and again.
At it,
you
and
know,
especially for those of you that have a lot of fire and air
100%.
in your chart.
Yeah, I get that way a lot.
If you are a very intense, fiery, airy, mercurial person, if you got a lot of Aries, Sag, Leo in your chart, if you're really Taurus, like do something that's going to help you to relax. I know. If you're like a workaholic, if you got Mars and Taurus, like chill acts.
Learn from the water signs or people who are like just air, because I think that just air does a lot better with this too.
I know, like literally just find something that is going to bring you joy. I have 2 people in my life with Mars and Taurus. One of them listens to this podcast. She knows who she is. Mars and Taurus, work. What this person does is she takes baths.
Yeah.
Taking a bath. And like if she's too stressed out and she'll message, well, I'm in the bath. I'm like, yay.
Yeah.
I wish I had her bathtub. She has this amazing bathroom, this incredible bathtub. Like, give that to yourself. Whatever you know, like she knows that she needs the most amazing bathtub because in a bathroom, because the bath is her wind down. She cries in the bathtub. She can get into the flow state in the bathroom. She also has this great yard and she likes to go out in sun in the yard and she'll send us pictures of that. For me, I have to have an indoor gym. I have to have a playground. The gym is a playground for me. I have to go to a physical gym and I have to have an indoor gym because I have to be able to play, and those are my adult toys. My toys are playground. That's what I love. When I was a kid, I literally played with my toys until I was 16 years old because I literally played with Fisher-Price toys until I was 16 because I hadn't transferred yet into... I'm like, I got to do this adulting thing. And adults seem so stressed out. And I really love to play. How am I going to do this? And it literally transferred from that into, well, wait a minute. I dance. Why don't I just have a dance studio in my home?
Yeah.
And that's how I was able to literally let go of my Fisher-Price toys into, okay, dance shoes and a rack. Here's my little tap pad. And I made a little, like, so for tappers, you have a wood board that's lifted to get more sounds out of it. And so I made one. I was like, oh, well, that's what the old hoofers do from Harlem. Oh, I should just do that. Okay. And then I was just on that little wood platform. And I was like, oh, this is a toy. Okay, well, now my toys need to be a gym. And then I got dumbbells. And those are my toys.
Yeah.
You have to find what's going to help you to relax.
Honestly, I think too that like in the flow state, everything that you do has an air of play to it. You know, it's not that everything is play like all the time. Like there are things that are difficult and you have to be able to overcome challenges, and actually having challenges is one of the most beautiful parts of the flow state, because in that state it's in alignment with your hero's journey, which means that there are challenges that you're going to need to overcome. And so overcoming blockages like fear, self-doubt, things like that, these are all things that are going to come in, but But when you keep open that sense of possibility, then there's this little tinge of playfulness that gets added to every scary thing. So it's like when I do something that pushes me or challenges me, it's like, oh, but the possibility that like if I did this, I could overcome it. And like if I have this like slight detachment to it, where it's like it's not the end of the world if I fail at this thing, then that scariness all of a sudden becomes very surmountable, and you can actually go and do the thing that you want to do, as opposed to getting bogged down in all of the garbage. And honestly, that's one of the negative aspects of like being in the work mindset, is either being too serious about what it is that you're trying to accomplish, or just not doing it at all because you're like, I it's too much work, or like I'm doing all this other stuff or this or that, you know? So yeah, looking for play in things, no, even if it's scary or difficult, that is a really, really helpful way to get back in alignment with it too. Thank you so much to everyone who listened to this week's episode of the podcast. Feel free to check us out on Instagram at One Long Conversation to get some updates on our future episodes, our future content. You can also follow us on Patreon and become a member. We have a lot of interesting and awesome perks and cool ways to connect with us and our community that we're forming there. So go over to Patreon at One Long Conversation, and you'll find us there. We also have these episodes going out on YouTube now. So if you go to YouTube, yet again, at One Long Conversation, you will find video versions of these episodes. So yeah, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.